Hi, and welcome to Quick Tips. Today we're talking about using whiteboards and annotation tools in Zoom. So first let's jump into how you share a whiteboard in Zoom. So this is shared using the green share screen button that appears at the bottom. Here we are in a Zoom call right now. And when we click on that green share screen button, you're going to get a pop-up with different sharing choices. Those choices look like this. Here's a list of them. And the one you want is this third one along that says whiteboard. So let's have a look at that. Let's go ahead and share a whiteboard. Okay, so it's as easy as that. That's how you share a whiteboard. Now let's talk about who owns this whiteboard. So let's talk a little bit about ownership. This is something that is different from some other tools like Skype, for example. Every whiteboard has an owner. It is owned by the person who shares it. And the contents of that whiteboard belong to them. That means that as different people share whiteboards, they have different content. The content is not shared between them. So I can have something on my whiteboard and share it, and you can have something different on your whiteboard. And let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to jump in here. I've shared a whiteboard, and I'm just going to go ahead and, since this one is being shared on my Mac, I'm going to go ahead and just write Mac, M-A-C, with my little drawing tool. So this is the contents of my Mac's whiteboard. Now I'm in a call, so I'm going to go ahead and close this whiteboard out. So I'm going to stop sharing it. And now I'm going to go to my other participant in this call and have that person share a whiteboard as well. So we're going to do that here. I'm going to come over and I'm going to click Share Screen, and I'm going to select Whiteboard. And now a whiteboard is going to be pushed to me as another participant, and you'll see that it is empty. It does not have any content on it. And just to show this is different, I'm going to go ahead and write PC, because this is a Windows personal computer. So one whiteboard has PC on it, the other whiteboard has Mac on it. They both live separately. So every whiteboard has an owner in Zoom. Next, let's talk about persistence. That is, how long do the contents of these whiteboards live? And the answer is that a whiteboard's contents hang around as long as the owner, that is the person who shares the whiteboard, as long as that owner is in the call. When the owner of a whiteboard leaves a call, the contents are wiped out and they're gone and they're not recoverable. So let's demonstrate that. So right now we have the PC being shared. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. So I'll stop sharing that whiteboard. I'm going to come back to my Mac, and again we're going to do Share Screen, and we're going to bring up that whiteboard again, and you'll see that the contents are still there. Even though I unshared it and reshared it, they're still there. And of course, again, if I stop sharing that one and I come back over to my Windows PC and I share the whiteboard, that one still has PC. So the contents live through as long as the people are on the call. Now here's a part that's not obvious. What does it mean to be on the call? If you leave and go to a breakout room, for example, are you still on the call? The answer is no. A breakout room is considered a separate call. So when you leave to go to a breakout room, those contents are going to be lost. So let's go ahead and unshare this PC screen. So that's not being shared anymore. And I'm actually going to assign me to a breakout room. So I'm going to do that really quickly here. So I'm assigning myself to a breakout room. And so I've just got a notification. You've been assigned to a breakout room. Would you like to go to the breakout room? And yes, we'd like to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click Join Breakout Room. And notice that I drop out of the call. And a new call is going to be started up. It's actually started up on this computer, so I will, my monitor, so I'll bring it back over on the main screen. So I'm in a separate call all by myself. There's no one in this call. And I can start a whiteboard. And you'll notice that if I go in here and open a whiteboard, I'm in a new call. So the whiteboard contents are not there. I could even go in, for example, to my text tool here, and I could type, let's say we're going to do breakout room. This is the whiteboard for the breakout room. I can stop sharing it. I can share it again. Again, it's going to persist as long as I'm in this call. But when I leave this call, so let's stop sharing, and I'm going to leave the room, leave the breakout room. The breakout room's still there, but I've left it and I've come back to the main call. So I'm going to do that, and here I am, and I've come back to the main call. And you'll notice if I go to the Windows PC and I say share screen, and let's share the whiteboard, the PC, because that person never left the main session, still has their whiteboard, and its contents are unchanged. But if I go to the Mac, where I had Mac written originally and breakout room written when I was in the breakout room, if I come in and share screen and select the whiteboard again, I'm going to get a blank whiteboard, because when I left the main session to go to the breakout, it was wiped. When I left the breakout to come back to the main session, it was wiped. So anytime you move between calls, it's going to wipe it out, which means that while the whiteboard is a good tool for collaboration and sharing thoughts, it is not a good tool for capturing and trying to persist information, because one VPN drop, one popping in and out of a breakout room, and you lose those contents. So be aware of that when you're using the tool. Speaking of tools, let's talk about the tool set that you have when you are using a whiteboard. These are the tools that you get in Zoom, starting right over my head here. And these tools, by the way, vary depending on who is presenting the content. The person presenting gets a couple of extra tools that other people don't. So this is the full set. Starting over here on the left, we have select. Only the person sharing a whiteboard can select. Select means you can grab other things on the whiteboard and move them around. What that means is if you're a participant looking at someone else's whiteboard and you type something or you draw something, you can't move it. You can't even edit it. You put it there and it's done. You can undo it, you can delete it, but you can't move it around. Only the person sharing the whiteboard can do that. Now, let me talk to you, before I get into more of the tools, let me talk to you about how you get these tools. These tools are displayed automatically when you share a whiteboard. So if I come back here again, I'll stop sharing this whiteboard and I will share it again. You'll notice that when I click share screen and whiteboard, I get this set of tools. I'll bring them down so they're easier to see here. I get this toolbar automatically. Now, if you lose the toolbar, accidentally you hit X and it's gone, you can always bring these toolbars back by clicking. If you look, just let me make this a little bit larger for you so you can see it more easily. There is a sort of sharing toolbar across the top while you're sharing something, and right here at the end there's a pencil, and that pencil says right now, it says whiteboard, and if I click on that, it brings my tools back. You can toggle on and off to hide the tools. And it's called whiteboard because I'm sharing a whiteboard. It's important to know, though, that these whiteboard drawing tools don't just apply to whiteboards. They can be used anytime you're sharing content. And some of these tools make more sense for shared content than for a whiteboard. So let me show you how you get to these tools if you're sharing something different. So I'm going to come down here. I'm actually going to share something different. So I'll do new share, and I'm going to select a PowerPoint deck that I've got back here. So here's my PowerPoint deck, and I'm now sharing this on my other computer. I can see this PowerPoint deck. And you'll notice I don't have drawing tools, even though I just shared this, because they don't assume that you probably want to draw, but you can. In the same spot where we had that pencil that said whiteboard, now we have the same pencil, but it says annotate. And so you can click on that button and you get the same set of tools back. And again, you can toggle on and off. So the whiteboard drawing tools, the annotation tools, are the same whether you're sharing a whiteboard or not, but they only show by default if it's a whiteboard that you share. The other point is that you can get to these tools even if you're not the one sharing. It's a slightly smaller set of tools, but most of them are still there, but you have to look a little harder. So I'm going to show you how you get to them in that case. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to have a different computer share so that I'm just viewing as a participant. So over here on this computer, I'm going to come in and I'm going to share screen, and I'm going to share a different PowerPoint deck. So the PowerPoint deck is being pushed over here, and now I'm just a participant looking at someone else's tools. I don't have that toolbar at the top with all of the sharing tools because I'm not sharing. What I do have, though, is that lovely menu that says View Options. So many things that you want to do are in this View Options menu, and one of them, when you click on it, right down here, says Annotate. So even as just a viewer of a presentation, if I click on that, I get my same set of tools. You'll notice I don't have Select anymore. I have one that says Mouse, which turns off the other tools, but I can't select and move things around, but I've got pretty much all the other tools. So let me walk you through what those tools are. Again, as I said, this is your set of standard tools, for annotating in Zoom. Starting at the left, we had the Select tool. I've discussed that one. Text and drawing, as you expect, would create text. You saw it when I put breakout room. Or drawing lets you sort of draw with lines. I would suggest before you use either of those, though, you probably want to go over and hit this one that says Format. format will let you choose the colors, the line widths, the size of the text, etc. It's important to do that first because once you type something in or you draw something, if you want to go back and change it, generally you can't because you cannot select it unless you're the one drawing it. And even still, it's hard to make changes. So assume that you're kind of writing with a pen and it is what it is. So set your format first and then go over and either type text or drawing. Now if you select drawing, you get a set of tools like arrows, different shapes, different line, like spray paint or thin lines. So you can select one of those to do drawing. Right next to that, there's actually one that says stamp. Stamp is actually quite useful. The stamp tools have a fixed size and color. They are sort of pre-formatted, but you get things like red hearts and check marks, green check marks, and stars, etc. These can be useful as voting tools. So maybe you have an activity where something is presented on screen, a set of options, say, and you give people a minute or two to think about it and then to put the check marks. If they have questions, put question marks next to things that you have questions about, and then you can kind of look at all that information. So those are nice tools for voting. The next one along is Spotlight, and we're actually going to come back to that one because I want to show you how that tool works in a moment. So I'm going to jump on to the next view where you have the eraser, the undo, the redo, and the little trash can that says clear. These are all things to clean up stuff. So if you've drawn something, you can use the eraser to erase it. The eraser is an object eraser. So if you've drawn a big shape and you intersect, you click and drag the eraser and it touches the object disappears. You can only erase your own things unless you are the host or the presenter. So if you're just a participant, you only erase your own things. Undo has multiple stages of undo and multiple stages of redo. So if you start drawing something and you mess it up, since you can't really edit, you can just undo your way back. And the clear at the end allows you to clear everything that you've drawn, which is better than having to do all the undos. If you are the host of the call, you can also clear everything. So if you're seeing something inappropriate or that you just want to help out the presenter, you can just clear everything for them. As a presenter, you can, I can actually show you, as a presenter, you have the option to clear everything, to clear everybody else's drawings but keep yours, or just clear your own drawings. So you can make those changes as you like. Okay, now I said I wanted to talk about this one called Spotlight. Spotlight is the other tool that varies depending on whether you're the presenter or not. If you are the one presenting a whiteboard or more likely a content like let's say a PowerPoint deck, Spotlight is the tool that you will get as a presenter. It is the red laser pointer. So when you click on it and drag it around, it makes a laser pointer. Other participants don't get the laser pointer. You can't have people sitting out there all shining laser pointers. But what you and everyone else gets is this arrow, and I really like this arrow. So let me explain how the arrow works. The arrow is like a stamp, but it's a stamp that is only there until you click somewhere else, and it has your name on it. So you could say, if people have questions, click the arrow next to something, or if you're talking, you could say, I have a question about this, and you can point at something for that discussion. So let me show you what that would look like. So again, there's here's a deck on a Zoom call, someone else is presented. As a participant, maybe I have a question about, this thing says spring 2020, and I want to ask about the date, but people don't know what I'm talking about. So I can click on the arrow here, and then when I click on the screen here, you'll notice it has put this arrow, and I can click different places. And as I click different places, it will move the arrow around, and that arrow has my name on it. And multiple people can be clicking, and you've got that, but you don't get a lot of different arrows per person. It's one arrow per person. I have a question about the words design strategy, and I'm talking about down here, for example. So it's a nice way to point and get folks' attention to the right place. So it's I think a really useful tool. And again, you can just clear that by hitting clear. So those are your annotation tools. So last thing I want to talk about is security around annotations. And specifically, I mean, how do you keep this nice and clean and appropriate? So you have a couple of choices. So if you're the one sharing, you can do this. So I'm actually going to stop sharing on this computer, and I'm going to share something, and I'll show you these tools. So, but what I'm going to show you is these two elements here. So remember this pencil that says either whiteboard or annotate? So when you're sharing, you get this button that toggles your tools on and off. Right next to it, there's a button that says more. And it's got various other things that don't fit along there, but one of them, actually two of them, are interesting. So let's see. We've got disable attendee annotations. If you don't want other people writing on your presentation, you can turn it off right here, and then people can't turn on those annotation tools as participants. The other one is the show names of annotators. And if you allow annotations, but you would like when someone annotates something to see who it is, you can do that. And I'm again going to show how this works here. So I'm going back into a deck, and let's say we're presenting this PowerPoint deck. You can tell it's shared because it has the green trim around it. And if I want to turn that on, I'd go to More, and I'll say Show Names of Annotators. And if I turn that on, now if I go and do an annotation as someone else, so let's come over here to my other computer, I'm going to turn on my Annotate tools, and let's just take a stamp, and I'm going to do a heart. And if I click a heart right here, then you'll notice it says Jeff's PC, right? So as I'm adding things, it's putting my name. It just stays there for a second or two, so it's not going to clutter it up with names, but it means that people aren't completely anonymous. So if you're worried about people anonymously scribbling things, you can have that little show of who it is. Now, if it's voting, maybe you want to leave that off for anonymity, but you have that control. So you can either turn it off altogether, or you can have people's names flash up for just a few seconds. So those are some security things that can help out. And those are our tips for having a better whiteboarding experience. Recognizing, again, you can control who can annotate and draw on things, and whether it's anonymous or not. I mentioned the different tools that you have and how a couple of them are different depending on who owns the whiteboard. I mentioned that the whiteboard contents last as long as the owner is in the call, and that switching between breakout rooms or exiting the call and coming back in will wipe your contents. Again, there's multiple whiteboards. Every whiteboard has the owner, so you can have different people with different contents. They are not synchronized. And you share the whiteboard just off of the standard share screen interface. So those are our quick tips on Zoom whiteboards. I hope it helps you to have a more effective meeting. Good luck and have a great day. Bye-bye.